I would be in favor of a format that lets the public start off, and we shall respond to them. Thank you.
Any other comments? I'd just like to add that the format of the forum, there was a subcommittee that was formed. We had four standing members of the board, and Cheryl Axton and myself met with Becky Burke, the Hooksett School District moderator and our facilitator, to develop a format. And I can also tell you it's not to hinder any public comment. I mean, you're all welcome to come up and comment, ask questions, as in any other forum. But we also need, and Becky will review, there has to be some guidance, if you will, on the amount of time we're going to spend here tonight. This isn't an endless forum by any means. And again, I don't want to steal Becky's thunder, because I won't do it justice. You know, she will explain the you know, the format of the forum. You know, when you know, it's handed over to her. So that's all I have. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to. Could you read that motion back to? Does it change the format? Yeah, if you could read it.
David Crowe moved to change the format of the forum.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to change the format of the forum. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
We have a roll call vote, please.
Sure. And I'll start at this end.
No, I don't want to change the format.
Carol?
Nay.
Nay.
Yes.
Nay. Okay. Moving on. Again, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Hooksett School District High School Assignment Forum. I want everyone to know that the Hooksett School Board realizes that the recent decisions made on the high school assignment issue were very well thought out based on the current policy JCB. The board also wants to acknowledge that the high school assignment issue is a very emotional issue and realizes that there has been some discontent with the decisions it has rendered. It is the board's hope that the information provided by presentations or response to public questions or comments will add detail to the process and how the decisions were ultimately rendered. We're very fortunate to have Becky Burke, Hooksett School District Moderator, facilitate tonight's meeting. At this time, I'd like to hand over the floor to Becky Burke.
So that was easy. Thank you very much. I am not here today, despite the fact that I've been referred to as moderator a couple times. I'm really not here as the moderator. I'm here because there was some request for someone who was a little bit removed from the board and removed from the debate a little bit to help facilitate the discussion. So that's the way I'm really looking at this. I'm not looking at it as a moderator. I'm looking at it as a facilitator position. I would just like to address some of the issues that were raised before. Dave, I totally appreciate the fact that you didn't want someone else other than the board coming to help facilitate the meeting. I think it's important, however, this is my own personal piece, that as facilitator, I think it's equally important to make sure that the public is heard and understood, and equally important to make sure that the board is understood, and to make sure that if the board isn't clearly understood, that someone's here to say, that's not clear enough, and can you please help explain further. That's how I kind of view my role. I'm happy that you all showed up. And what I'd like to do is to open it up to the floor for members of the public to come up. You don't need to give your address, but if you would just give your name so that we know who you are, that would be wonderful. You're welcome to provide comments, ask questions. I am going to ask you to limit your comments if you can, just so that we make sure that everyone who came here tonight and has comments to share has a chance to do that. So if you would limit it to 2 or 3 minutes, I'm not going to be a strict timekeeper, and we'll go from there. So, are there any questions about why we're here, the purpose, questions on format?
Madam Facilitator?
Yes.
What would be the procedure for answering questions?
The procedure for answering questions will be members of the board will answer the question.
Are they to direct the question to specific board members, are you suggesting, or what we need to decide?
I think that's really up to the person who's asking the question, if they want to direct it to a particular member of the board. Keep in mind that there's a little bit of a shift here between the last board meeting and this board meeting, because we've got 2 new members. So the board that made the policy change is not the board that's sitting in front of you here. So what you may hear is some people expressing their own personal opinions, which don't necessarily reflect the view of the previous board, and that's fine. If you would just clarify for us when you're speaking, if you're speaking from a board position, or if you're speaking as an individual, I think that would be great. Okay. So, help? Anything else? Yes.
Are we going to be able to ask the attorney questions if they're specific?
I don't see why not. Yes.
Before we take questions, are we going to allow the
thank
attorney
you.
to?
Yes. Okay, so we will open it up to questions, but I had forgotten that. Thank you, Dana. Yes.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Just since I'm unclear on who the attorney represents. So on his statements, if you could establish, does he represent the SAU? Does he represent Hooksett? Does he represent both? And does he represent other districts within the SAU? Just for clarity.
I will let him clarify if I'm wrong, but he is here tonight representing the Hooksett School District. And the Hooksett School District solely. If that's wrong, Mr. Graham, you will correct me. But I would like to introduce Attorney Gordon Graham. As he's been introduced, he has been one of the members of legal counsel to the district for several years, including all the way going back to when the contract was originally negotiated. So I'd like to have him give a little bit of context and overview, and then we'll go from there.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Gordon Graham. I'm an attorney at Sol Leslie Kidder Sayward Lowman, and I have been a representative of the Hooksett School District for 20 some odd years. The Hooksett School District is the entity, which is the Hooksett School District. It's a municipal corporation. This is an answer to your question, sir. And as an entity, as a municipal corporation, it's managed by a board of directors, essentially, which is the school board. And the CEO is the superintendent of schools. So I answer to all those people and make certain that I try and give the advice through those people to ultimately represent the Hooksett School District in the best way that I can. I do also represent the SAU. Our firm also does represent all the other districts that are in the SAU for disclosure purposes, if that's an issue, which includes Auburn and Candia, and we represent some 90 school districts in the state of New Hampshire. That's chiefly the work that our office does, and we have various relationships with all those districts. Some we do all their work, some we do some of their work, et cetera, et cetera. But that's the business or the type of law that I practice. I'm going to just give a very brief overview so that we're all making sure that we're talking about the same things. As you all, and I think most of you probably know this, that are involved in this issue and have been following it along. So I don't think I'm going to be telling anybody anything that's new, but I think it's just important so that there's a baseline of background information. The Hooksett School District in July 1st, 2003 entered an agreement with the Manchester School District for the education of high school students. That agreement obligates the school district as a sending district. Oh, and that agreement, it's very important to note that that agreement was approved by the citizens of the town of Hooksett at a school district meeting, and ultimately also approved by the State Department of Education, and in fact is specifically by its terms conditioned on the approval on the approval of the agreement by the State Department of Education. The agreement itself calls for Hooksett as a sending district to send all of their public high school students to Manchester high schools, with the exception of those students who petitioning a sending district school board, who petition a sending district school board to attend a different high school and are approved for such attendance on a case-by-case basis. That's the language that's contained in the contract. Now, the significance of the fact that the contract was approved by the State Department of Education is that this agreement, which was entered into pursuant to New Hampshire state law, RSA 194:22, states that when a district like Hooksett that does not maintain its own high school enters into an agreement with another district that to educate its high school students, and that agreement is ultimately approved by the State Department of Education, that district with which the sending district made the contract is deemed to be a district and a school that's maintained by the sending district. That word maintained by the sending district is a curious use of a word. It dates back, way back to the 19th century when it was adopted. But the New Hampshire Department of Education had concluded in a case in 1996, which was Lindsay H. versus the Andover School District, that as follows: based on an analysis of case law, legislative history, and state board practice, the hearing officer ruled and the Board of Education concurred that that state board approval is the only means for a school district which does not maintain its own high school to avoid school of choice tuition liability, in order to assure that the sending district, though liable for tuition payments specified under a contract, is relieved of the broad school of choice tuition liability applicable to school districts not maintaining a school. School districts should submit tuition contracts to the State Board of Education for approval. That's a memorandum that went out to all superintendents of schools by the New Hampshire Commissioner of the Department of Education, who at the time was Elizabeth Toomey, as a result of a case that had been decided by the State Board of Education, which dealt with the issue of where kids could go to school in schools like Hooksett that did not maintain their own high school.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Could you say what you just said in plain English?
Boy, I thought that was. I'm sorry. Maybe it was a lot of information and I went through it fast, and I know I deal with this all the time. Let me try. I think I will need to do a little more explaining before I boil it down to plain English.
That's fine.
There are a lot of statutes that deal with tuitioning students and with the assignment of students. It's not a simple, look it up, there's the answer. There are a lot of statutes. And they've been passed over a long period of time. They don't always perfectly mesh. There are two situations. That districts either operate their own school and can send kids to their own school, like you do here in Hooksett with the Colley Middle School, for example. You operate a middle school, and you operate a couple of elementary schools, correct? But those elementary schools are staggered grades. Some districts are large enough to have multiple schools.